Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Desmond Sedai, and today I am doing a WoW Classic TBC boss tier ranking list. And I did one of these a few days ago for WoW Classic Vanilla, and this time around I made some adjustments. I zoomed in a little closer, so I think this will be a little more user-friendly for those of you who watched. And for this expansion, I had quite a bit more experience. I started out in my dad guild, and we did Growls, which was, we managed to kill it every time, but we had a 4-hour raid slot, and sometimes it literally took us 4 hours to get Gruul just because people weren't standing where there should be, and his stupid, like, crush shatter ability just killed huge swaths of our raid, and we didn't have the best DPS, and combined with everything else, it was just kind of a nightmare. But we did get Megtheridin down twice, and after that our guild fell apart because our tank and her partner were moving, and we lost one of our healers, and it was just kind of a crap show. So I have a lot of experience with all these bosses, and I should be able to give a very detailed analysis where it's required. Some of these bosses, like in Hyjal, do not require detailed analysis because they're pretty straightforward. Some of them Black Temple, same thing. But without further ado, let's start off with High Lord Mulgar, whatever you want to call him. I'm going to put this boss in C tier because it's not particularly a hard fight. He drops really good loot. And there's you can wipe on this boss. You can also cheese this boss, but not terribly difficult. Even my dad guild managed to kill him fairly quickly, almost the first time every time. We first did this back in June, June of last year. It was pretty uneventful, and everyone got their loot and everyone was happy. So this wasn't too bad. Now, Growl, on the other hand, I feel like a lot of Growl is RNG, which is really why I want to put him in C tier too. Like, I would say Growl is a little bit more difficult. He does do hatefuls, which means you have to watch your threats. If you pull threat, it can be a big problem. But overall, not a terribly hard boss. The Shatter is just really, it all depends on RNG. Like, you can get really good RNG and be a really crappy group. Like I said, we had a lot of DPS issues, so we just weren't able to phase him down quick enough to get through the Shatters. And it wasn't fun for us. We got him down every time, but it would take us literally all 3.5 hours of raid time to get him down. We didn't have any time left for Mag. So even though there were only 3 bosses in this tier, and it just shows you where my guild was at. Like I said, we only had 2 Kel'Thuzad kills in Nax, and it's just, I really enjoyed Gruul Slayer though overall, because I mean it was only 2 bosses, and it was in the summertime. It was a really happy time of my life, so I have very fond memories of Gruul Slayer. And then we get around to Make Theridon. Make Theridon has mechanics, and I'm doing all these as the unbuffed or unnerfed versions. These are all when they came out. So I'm not doing the nerfed versions, which the nerfed versions of these bosses are just a flippin' joke, to be honest. Outside of Sunwell, which Sunwell still requires mechanics. We'll get to that when we get to that. But I'm doing all the unnerfed versions of these bosses. And unnerfed Meg Theridon required a lot of coordination, and which is why we only got 2 kills. A lot of the time we didn't get kills on Meg Theridon is because we didn't have time, because we were too busy wiping on Gruul, getting killed by Shatter and our terrible DPS. But I will put Meg Theridon in B tier because I really enjoyed this fight. All through the handful of times that I killed him until I got into a better guild. The third time, Meg Theridon was actually what caused our guild to fall apart, because we just didn't have enough people consistently show up. We had an influx of people at the beginning of TBC, and then they just all quit. And like I said, we had problems with people showing up. Our tank was moving. Her partner was one of our healers, So we were missing a tank and a healer. We didn't have the right raid comp, and Make Theradon required every little bit of our focus and required all hands on deck. And eventually, very sadly, I love this guild to pieces. I was with them from the literally day one of Classic, and I came back to them after my break. So yeah, Make Theradon essentially wiped our guild, which is sad. But the guild that I joined after them, during this phase, mind you, was substantially better. But like we couldn't get Make Theradon down, there was no way we were going to do well in SSC, so it was probably for the best. And yeah, I don't think we would have got through unnerfed SSC TK with the guild I was in. Like we would have wiped there anyways, so I guess it was better sooner than later. And in August of last year, after Meg wiped her guild, I joined a new guild, which was semi-hardcore. They had 2 fully functioning raid groups that were killing content. And at this time, I was a very mid-tier warlock. I was like a blue parser, and every now and then I get lucky. In fact, I don't even think I had many orange parsers at this time. I was just a blue parser. I didn't really know my rotation. I didn't really understand, and it wasn't even a hard rotation. Actually, at this time, this was when I was Incinerate was a thing, but I didn't use flame caps. I didn't know about flame caps. I was still kind of a noob. Nax made me a decent player, but I still wasn't a good player. But I remember in my new guild, right after Make Theradon, we did Make Theradon, and actually got my tier 4 chest piece to complete the ensemble back in like early October, which I was super excited about. But it was on Growl, and I was top of the DPS meter, and I was so excited, and I got like an 82 parse or something like that, which wasn't that good, but for me, that was insane. And like, if you're getting orange parses, you're doing well, and I did really well, and I was like bragging to my sister about it that I was top of the DPS meters. But anyway, I'm going off on a whole different tangent. But anyway, yeah, Make Theradon's B tier. I enjoyed that boss. I enjoyed it when I was in a decent guild too. We were able to kill it consistently every night. It was nice, like not to wipe 20 times in a night. Make Theradon did require coordination. It did require people to press the buttons, and it did require some tactics. And there was DPS checks kind of too. So yeah. Anyway, I think we're done with Phase 1 bosses, and we'll go right into Phase 2. Hydros. I'm gonna put Hydros in B tier. SSC for me was a very fun raid. And Hydros required tanks to wear Nature Resist, I believe, and I think another set. You had 2 different phases. DPS really had to watch out. He would kill Warlocks, or she, I should say. She would kill Warlocks all the time. So I really had to watch my ass in this fight. And SSC, in terms of me as a player, is where I really started to actually get good and started to get like in the 90s in terms of parses. And I had really good people mentoring me. So that was nice. Shout out to Drip Chief if you ever watch this, but yeah, he probably won't. But anyways, after Hydros, we have Lurker, who... Lurker is fun. I thought he was annoying, but if you're... And I remember the first time I few did him, I did terrible on him because I was too cautious with the spouts and everything. It's really funny to see people die to the spouts because they're being too greedy. It happened a lot of times with the Warlock group. And yeah, I thought Lurker was a fun boss. Melee, if they didn't watch out, would get killed all the time. There was a lot of laughs in Lurker. So Lurker did require some tactics, did require some maneuvering mechanics. Loot was decent on there, were a few really good pieces off of him. So yeah, I would say overall he's a good boss. I'm going to put him at B tier. Leotheris, the Blind. I need to pull up these bosses just to make sure I remember all of them. I think I can remember most of them because I've done them so many times, but some of these have been almost a year since I've done them. The Lurker. Okay, good. This boss was kind of cool because you were a warlock, you could tank him, but I feel like he just spins where he wants and kills people. I hate the RNG factor in him. I did not really like this boss. Yeah, he required mechanics, but he was also really annoying. So, I'm gonna put him in C tier just because he did drop a really good caster sword though. That was my first time like getting really good loot. Loot Council gave it to me, and I was very excited because, like I said, I was a very mid-tier warlock, and this is where I really started getting good. And on this boss, I think I got my first orange bars ever in like an active raid. I got like a 95, and I was like screaming. So yeah, and that was because I was being irresponsible and like I got very lucky he didn't come over and kill me, but I got away with it, and I got really good parses on this boss. The next boss is Fathom Lord Karathrass. I'm gonna put this boss at B tier because it is a very mechanic intensive fight. You have the ads, and one of them you have to tank away. Otherwise, I think it's like an elemental ad that blows you up. And he dropped a lot of very iconic stuff and required you to respect the mechanics. And he caused a lot of wipes because people didn't respect the mechanics. We usually grouped up the ads. I think there was a grandpa way of doing this, but overall a fun fight. Kind of annoying at times, but overall pretty fun. And we're going to move on to Morigrim Tidewalker. As a range DPS, I want to put him at C because I hated the RNG mechanic of getting put in the bubbles. I never parsed well in this boss because every time I was ready to freaking seed the imps, he would freaking bubble me. And I'd get terrible parses, and I was a warlock, so I didn't have a way to speed myself up. But, like, he is a good boss. I love the Murloc mechanic. He has a ton of mechanics. Very difficult boss for SSC and unnerved versions. A lot of guilds did not get past him. He required you to respect his mechanics, and you had to be really on your game. And if you're DPS and you aggroed, or if you're a mage or a warlock and started AoEing too early, the Murlocs would just kill you. I did not like the RNG. I did get like an 89 or something like that at the very last, like one of our last kills. So I finally fixed my parses on him. But yeah, I did not like this boss because he had the worst RNG. All right, and next up we have Vashj. Unnerved Vashj was a crap show. For me as a warlock, it was an extremely fun fight. The last phase was utter chaos with the poison bombs going off, the mind controls that you couldn't do anything about, and you just had to pop everything and just hope to kill her as fast as possible. We spent like 2 or 3 days just wiping. I think we had 30 wipes or something, or 20 or 30 wipes on Nerf Vashj, but some of my fondest memories are on her. Very challenging fight, very mechanic intensive, tons of phases. I want to put her at S tier, and the only reason I'm putting her at A tier is because I feel like there's RNG. And like when there's RNG involved, that's just not the best. That's just not the best in the dungeon or the raid creators process. Like there should be a little skill involved, and not just RNG. And there is skill involved in Vashj. Obviously, there are DPS checks. If you don't have the right comp, no matter what the RNG is, she's just going to wipe you in the last phase. And if you're not on top of the orbs or those ball things you throw, you're going to die. If you're not on top of controlling the ads, the DPS to control the ads, you're going to die. And I remember this was the first time that I was like top DPS as a warlock because I was really good at nuking down the ads and moving around and putting my dots up. Very fun fight to be a warlock in. But yeah, because of the RNG, it's the only reason why she's not an S tier. But yes, Vashj was a very, very chaotic fight. A lot of raid guilds did not get past her. The unnerved version of Vashj was definitely a guild killer. I would say probably a few dozen guilds in our server were victim to her. So, and if I was in my old guild, we wouldn't have even probably gotten to her because we probably wouldn't even got past Morigrim Tidewalker. But anyways, Alar. Alar I'm putting B tier. I like this fight. Tempest Keep is a very fun raid for me. and Alara was a very fun fight. As a Warlock, I couldn't go Incinerate, so this is where I had to switch over to press Shadow Bolt and win. If you stood in the right place, you could get really good DPS in Alara. You obviously have to watch out for threat. Not a hard fight at all, but I remember the first time I went into Tempest Keep, I loved the music, I loved the ambiance, and of course this first boss fight was really fun for me. And I got really good at it by learning how to move around and really pump DPS, and obviously standing in the right place, you can really maximize DPS in this fight. If you're not standing in the right place, not paying attention, you're going to get crap DPS. But yeah, moving on to, the heck was this? Void Reaver. Yes, Void Reaver. See, I'm doing better at remembering names. I'm going to put Void Reaver at C, because this was kind of an annoying fight. Hunters just run around and dodge orbs. The Grandpa version of this fight was really annoying to do DPS on. So if you had the right group and you had the right DPS, you could get this down pretty quick. If you have a bad group, you're going to have issues on it. But like, we really never had any issues with Void Walkers or Void Reaver, except on our alt runs, where everybody decided to bring their warriors from Classic and their undergear alts, and we had to do the Grandpa strategy, and that was really boring and annoying. High Astromancer. I like this fight. In fact, I almost want to put her at A. People had to soak, use different gear sets. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. I'm going to put this at A. Not just because of loot, but because there were mechanics. You had to kill ads. There were different phases. A very well-designed fight. Skill intensive, not like Vosh that requires RNG. Just a very fun fight. You had to have people soak the arcane bombs or whatever. You had to pay attention. She was challenging. Even for us being a good guild, or I would say a semi-professional, not semi-professional, I'd say semi-hardcore guild. We were definitely not a casual guild, but we got her down every time. Kel'Thas is going to be our first S tier. This was a skill-intensive fight, a little bit of RNG, but pay attention to the ads. There's a lot going on. It is chaotic, but it is also a blast. I think that this was the funnest fight for me up until Sunwell. Unnerfed, we had a lot of wipes on this boss. We didn't get him down, I think, till like mid October. We got Vosh down at the end of September, which was awesome. But we didn't get him down until like October sometime. But very fun as a Warlock. You had to have someone tank the ads. You had then the ads came back. You had to pick up the epic weapons. Just a very well-designed fight and very, very good. This is Blizzard at its prime, I think, in terms of designing encounters. So yeah, right off the bat, you can see there's not really any D yet. Like, so already, like, the encounters are more fun so far than they were in Classic, I would say, even though I've only gone through about half. I don't think I've gone through half the bosses. Anyways, speaking of lower tier, we're going to move on to Hyjal, or as I call it, Hyjal. I did not enjoy this raid overall, but initially when I get into it, because I never did this in Classic, another thing I want to mention is when I initially did this back when I started playing WoW, I never did any of these raids. And I just heard that like Vosh was hard, that people couldn't clear Sunwell, like it was all just kind of in the background while I was screwing around making twinks and not even leveling to max level. I didn't even max level to 70 until the very end. I only leveled to 68, like at the literally on the day that Wrath came out. I leveled my rogue to 68 in Blade's Edge and took the boat. So I didn't even get to max level during this expansion in my initial WoW run. But yeah, Rage Winter Chill. You know, I'm gonna put this boss at. I'm gonna put it at C. There are some mechanics. The most annoying part of Hyjal is just having to waiting for trash. But yeah, he does a Frostbolt. You have to have your PvP trinket have really good heals. He does a Death and Decay. You got to move out of it. Um, yeah, not a terribly entertaining fight. I'm really tempted to put him in D, but I have another candidate for that later. Hyjal. I need to remember what the second. Anatheron, whatever. He dropped a belt that I always wanted, but he never dropped the belt because he hates casters, I guess. You know what? This boss I'm putting it a D. He's annoying. He sleeps random people. So if you want to parse, you could be doing everything right and he'll just sleep you. And unless you're a mage, you're just stuck there. If you're a mage, oh gosh, if you're a mage, you can just ice block. It's so stupid. Like being a mage in Hyjal, you could just get out of so much crap when you're any other class like a warlock. Because I rated as a warlock and a mage. And my mage was just like, oh, okay, I just put Arcane Blast. And get my innervates to get my freaking 90 parses or whatever. It's so stupid. But if you're a warlock, it's like, oh, when you get ice bolted, well, there goes your parse because you got to wear the stupid trinket and you got to waste time. And with an Anatheron, you get slept, and that ruins it too. So, you know, heck with this boss. I'm putting him in D. He's annoying. He drops stupid little infernals. He does his stupid sleep, and there's a stupid thing that reduces healing. We didn't wipe on these bosses hardly ever. Like, we had an easy time. Like, Hyjal is not a hard raid, it's just an annoying raid because of all the trash and the time that you're stuck there. That's why we call it Hyjal. Next boss after that is Casrogel. I'm going to put him at C. You have to manage your mana. I would not say this is I would say this is a decently fun fight. I mean, it's not a fun fight actually because there's just bull crap that happens in it. But yeah, put him at C. Not much more to say about him. Just watch your mana and don't stand next to people. We had this really dumb warlock in our raid that stood next to people, and I think almost every time he would blow people up, and yet he wanted the best gear from Loot Council. And yeah, but he's not with us anymore, so rip. Next boss after that is Asgalore. He's in D. He's annoying. Stupid silence. His stupid like RNG mechanics of where you got to doom, you got to move over the tank, and he cleaves people in front of him, and he silences. And he's just annoying, and there's not much more to say about him. Like annoying boss, but like good news is once you got him killed, you don't have to do trash anymore. It's the only thing good about that stupid boss. Archimond. I'm putting him at C2. Usually I put these bosses higher up, but he's annoying. Not a terribly hard fight. Very RNG intensive with his stupid flame paths. If you don't, a lot of people are stupid and didn't use their tier in time. I made the mistake of being a warlock and using Soul Shatter because I thought they had the same icon as the tier, and I'm like, oh, why did I die from fall damage? It must be ruined. The add-on's wrong. It's like, no, I'm literally pressing the wrong button. And when that happens, he does raid-wide damage. You can't die on him. I feel like a lot of deaths on this boss are due to RNG. You can't really parse on him. If you're a mage, you have to decurse, 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 decurse. And it's just annoying with the decurses if you're a mage because you have to go to the other side and you don't have fear ward because you're away from your shamans and you get feared into fire and you die after these ice block and it's just annoying. Like the warlock, it's annoying too because of the stupid flame paths. Yeah, I'm putting the C tier. Hyjal's just not a fun raid, and I don't think I'm alone in thinking this, but. Let's move on to Black Temple, and we're going to start with Nigentis. Nigentis I'm going to put in C tier. Almost tempted to put him in B. Not a lot of strategy. Literally just blow the boss up, heal up before the nuke, pull the spines out. A lot of people didn't pull the spines out because this was a parse boss, as we like to call it. Everyone was so focused on like, oh my gosh, I want to get the biggest parses. And just in terms of where I was as a character, Black Temple was really where I got my best parses. I had a lot of 99s in Black Temple. I yeah, I think I had like a 90, 98 or 99, 97.5 average or something like that. So this is really where I kind of got really good, even though these were all easy rates. But yeah, I had a lot of, I think I had like 2 or 3 99s in this boss. So yeah, just pretty much a tank and spank. Supremus, a really annoying boss. We had a lot of wipes on him. He does like a kite thing. He has a couple of phases. He does the stupid geysers, which again are an RNG thing. Well, wherever the geysers are, you get really bad geysers. And everybody can do anything right, but the geysers are bad, and you wipe because of that. So RNG, that boss is dumb. So I'm putting him at C. Shade is D. Shade shouldn't even be a boss. It's like a stupid fight. If you're a warlock, you can do this cheese thing where you have the tank strike one of the ads from a room in front, and you just seed off of it and get like really good damage and get like a free like 99 parse. Yeah, not much more to say about it. This. Shouldn't even be a boss. Kind of dumb. Taran. I didn't particularly like this boss because of spell pushback, but yeah, I like the mechanics on it. Did require a bit of strategy. It required people to use certain macros, whatever, when they get ghosted. Go to the back of the room. If you screw that up, you could wipe the raid. So a moderate challenge, I guess. The first like decently challenging boss in this raid. And not too much more to say about him. Gertog, Blood Boyle, same thing. Moderately challenging, I would say even more so than Taran, but not terribly challenging. Like we never had, like literally on the first week, the first go around, we cleared this entire raid. So yeah, it just requires groups to pay attention. If you screw up, it can get pretty nasty. We did have a fair amount of wipes on Gertog. Probably way more than any of the other, maybe, I don't know, Supremacists like screwed us over plenty of times, but I would say Gertog is actually because of skill and not RNG, because people didn't know what they're doing, and because they're, you know, DPS checks or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but a pretty fun fight. I look forward to this. A Reliquary of Souls, I forgot. I put that at C, because there's facets to it, but it's annoying. And with the interrupts and everything else, if you're a mage, you get the freaking spell things. I forgot Reliquary, but I don't think... it's another C boss for me, even though it is pretty unique. Mother Shiraz, I'm going to put it... I really want to put her D. But I like the mechanic where she increases certain schools of Banish and decreases, so you have to pay attention to that. I don't like the stupid teleport shadow link thing or whatever she does, soul link or whatever it's called. I don't like that because it's RNG. If you could just get ported into a corner and not be able to run anywhere and just die. A lot of people get screwed by it. Like this boss, either you parse like a 99 or you gray parse because you get really bad RNG on her. Or if you get good RNG, you just sit there and cast the entire time and get like an easy 99. But yeah, screw that boss. Illidari Council, I'm putting it B. A very challenging fight. Most people would say the most challenging, or right up there with Illidan. Requires coordination. There are Shiraz strats where you can take the mage. You have a mage tank. You have people to take each one. The rogue's kind of annoying, can envenom, so there's a bit of RNG involved. But yeah, I would say Illidari. I look forward to Illidari. Except when I was on my mage, because then I'd sit there and have to tank, or I'd have to do the stupid kite strat. And so, but as a warlock, yeah, pretty fun. Pretty fun to be able to dot multiple targets, and wasn't so fun when you got a flame. We had to avoid the stupid AoEs from the mage. But yeah, I think a B is a pretty good rating for that. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay. Next we have the one and only Illidan Stormrage, which I'm going to put at A. Every time I do this fight, I enjoy it. It's not terribly challenging, like compared to Solarion and Bosch. He is less challenging than both of them, I would say. Maybe slightly less than Solarion. But we had a lot of wipes on him because you have to have good tanks. You have to have tanks with the right... He does the shear. If you don't have like the right parry and all this other stuff, if you're not a paladin, he will kill you. So he requires you to respect his mechanics. He has a DPS check, so if you don't have a good composition... In my old guild, we would have had to have like a demon tank. There are still guilds that have to have demon tanks, or had to when it was still live, current. But yeah, I enjoy Illidan. It's a good fight. Black Temple was a good raid. I enjoyed Black Temple. I just didn't think it was hard enough. It's the only thing I have against Black Temple. And now we move on to my favorite raid in Classic yet, Sunwell Plateau. After Black Temple and Hyjal, we're all kind of bored. That's an easy way to say it. Outside of Illidan, I felt like Hyjal and Black Temple were a bit of a chore. I felt they were easy. I felt they were just, time sinks. And this is where I geared up my mage, and we got into Sunwell, and we wiped on trash a bunch of times, I should say. And then we got to Mr. Caligos, who, oh man. This fight I felt was a little bit RNG intensive, but it was a good fight. Required coordination. In terms of challenge, he was probably more challenging than everybody on this list outside of Kel'Thas and Vosh. He was not extremely challenging, but if you had a crappy guild, and if you had poor communication, even if you were a good guild and had poor communication, you were wiping on him. You had to really coordinate who went in the portals. You had to coordinate decurses. You had to coordinate when healers went down. Very well designed boss fight. Sunwell was crazy in terms of the difficulty step up from anything else outside of SSC and TK. The final bosses, at least. Yeah, he definitely belongs in B tier. In fact, I'd even move him higher up. Like, I would almost put him, like, compared to everything else, the challenge level and the loot. Oh my god, the loot. The loot was so good in Sunwell. Everything was good. The stats were itemized, a lot of spell haste. Oh, so good. And then we get to Brutalis. I have to. This is not a challenging fight per se, but he was really the first DPS check, and he was a heal check. And Brutalis was a raid killer. I would say in difficulty, he is on par with unnerfed KT and Vosh, and they didn't have enraged type. Well, they had different types of enraged timers, but Brutalis, if you didn't bring the right composition, if the healers didn't kill the burn victims quick enough and you didn't have the right DPS, you just died. And even with our guild and our DPS, which was very good enough to get Illidan through the demon phase, we wiped. And we had another raid that was having issues in Black Temple, and we probably wiped 20 times on him, and that raid fell apart. So yeah, Brutalis, what happened is we had 2 raids, and we had a raid 1 group who was really good at clearing content, but were toxic as hell. And there were some toxic people in that raid who liked to brag and whatever else, and I don't know, there was some disagreement and there was some guild drama, and they left. And they left us basically high and dry because, unfortunately, the people in that toxic raid group were two tanks, and we couldn't replace them. We couldn't just pull two tanks out of our butt. And so that entire raid fell apart. And what happened is the best of both raids condensed all of the best players, and we did Sunwell. We managed to get Brutalis down on the main raid group pretty quickly. Yeah, Felmist, same. Mechanics required healers to be on top of their toes in terms of dispels. We had a lot of wipes on her, not nearly as many as Brutalis. It's an easier fight than Brutalis, but still it requires a lot of coordination. Every fight in Sunwell is hard. Every fight requires personal accountability. If you don't move out of quick enough of a capsulate, you will die, and if enough people die, you will wipe. Like in Brutalis, if you are not accountable and you're standing too close to somebody when you have burn, you will likely wipe the raid. If you kill one or two people in Brutalis and don't make the DPS check, he will enrage and kill everybody. On Felmist, if you're not paying attention, if the raid leader makes the wrong call or somebody's not paying attention and says north and you should have gone south, the raid will wipe. Sunwell is unforgiving. It is hard, but it is also very entertaining and very rewarding. This is why it's my favorite raid thus far, even more than Nax. And that's hard for me to say because I love Nax. I have so many fond memories of Nax. And then we move on to Twins. Once we got Brutalis and Felmus down, we did it all on the same day. I was in such high spirits, like, oh gosh, we're doing so well. And then we got to Twins, and we wiped 20 times. We finally got them down that same week, but boy, was that not a lot of fun. Like, we got them down in like early May. I think it was like the second week. So the second week of progression, we got Twins down. And I really, remember I got, like, this is where I was, at the pinnacle of my form. I even got, I think, I went Affliction. Because I thought that Destruction was exceptionally boring, just casting one button. And I got bored with it very quickly. I decided to go Affliction because I wanted to help my other fellow casters out, and I liked having to manage the Imp. I like having to press more than one button, keeping Corruption and Siphon Life up and all that. And yeah, I enjoyed Affliction, and I got pretty damn good parses outside of Kill Jaden because we did the Grandpa strat. We'll get to that when we get to that. But overall, I'm going to put Twins at B because I feel like there's RNG. It's very healer intensive, but again, it's like who gets the conflag. If the healer gets the conflag, one of the tanks gets the conflag, the confounding blows, the aggro being unstable, people not paying attention to DPS. I feel like there's a lot of RNG. And if you get good RNG, that's not even that hard of a fight. But yeah, we had many wipes on Twins, and I feel like most of it was due to RNG, which is why I'm putting it in a B tier. It's a good fight. It's challenging. I imagine for a healer, it's very stressful. Very stressful. But yeah, again, I'm not going to put bosses with RNG mechanics up in A tier. Next, we have Muru. And I'm going to put him in A. Muru was exceptionally challenging, the hardest fight in the raid by far, or at least by a sizable margin. We wiped for, I think, 2 weeks, every day, 3 days a week to this boss. The ads are a pain. It requires exceptional coordination. There are DPS checks, hard DPS checks. You have to have a fair amount of warlocks. You have to have probably at least 3, ideally 4 warlocks. I remember when I first did this fight, I was a mage because our resident mage had her sister in town, and I didn't get to do any parse damage because, like, literally my job was to interrupt the casters that came in on both sides, or one side, which required coordination with the shamans who could then grab them once they got counterspelled. And then I had to go under the Void Sentinels to Nova the Void Spawns. And when it was entertaining, but my parses were terrible. And it's fun to do it in pre-patch now when the fight is a joke and get like 90, 95 parse ratings on it. So yeah, but on my Warlock it was a blast. I loved this fight on my Warlock, especially once we got him down. Yeah, Muru is an exceptionally good fight. There is a bit of RNG involved, but most of it's skill. It requires coordination. I know a lot of guilds. A lot. More so than any. This is by far the hardest fight ever in Classic WoW. Nothing even really gets close to it outside of KJ, which I think is a perfect segue. KJ is going in S tier. Every time I do this class, I get excited. Pre-nerf, kill Jaden. Why does this keep shrinking? There we go. Pre-nerf kill Jaden was exceptionally difficult, but not as difficult as Muru. Muru was, I would say, extremely difficult. Muru was exceptionally difficult. Had multiple phases. There was a way where people were really good, like the best of guilds. Our guild, people weren't fast enough, but you could avoid the flame bloom mechanic. As a warlock, it was just kind of annoying because I was on the flame orb group, and if I didn't do enough damage to flame orbs, I got yelled at, which was fair. I got Sunflare. Like I think on the second kill, he dropped Sunflare, and I got it. Like it was in June of this year, and I'd always wanted that weapon, and it was an exceptionally special thing for it to happen to me because I almost cried, to be honest. I ain't gonna lie. Like this was almost like getting Atiesh. I never got Atiesh because I was like low in the totem pole in my dad guild. But yeah, KJ is a very fun fight. As a warlock, I didn't get very good parses. Like the highest I got was like a 60 because we didn't do the cheese strat of basically just standing in dragon under the dragon orb. And just constantly getting buffed and not having to move and having people that had Fire Bloom move out. We didn't do that because people didn't do it fast enough. If we did it that way, I'd have like probably 90 parses in the 90s and have really good Sunwell parses. But Kill Jaden really killed my Sunwell parses. Because like I said, the best I got is like a 60 on him, and all the other fights I had like 96s, 95s, and like 90s or whatever. But yeah, a very fun fight, a challenging fight. We probably wept, I think, 27 times compared to like 50 on Muru or whatever. But yeah, we had we killed him at the, when did we kill him? I think we killed him in mid-June, so it took us just over a month to clear of progression to get through Sunwell, which is not that impressive, but also not terribly bad. There are a lot of guilds I know of that had a lot of good players that did not get through Brutalis, or got hard. A lot of them got hard stopped at Muru, which is understandable because Muru, if you don't have coordination and the right composition, is just hell. But yeah, this ended up being longer than my last video, even though there were less bosses. But that just shows my experience with it. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for watching. I've got some positive feedback from the last video. I might do a raid tier list where I just do all the raids, and I'll probably do both Classic and TBC. But anyways, I'm looking forward to Wrath of the Lich King. I really enjoy the new class changes, especially being a Warlock, being able to actually have a spec that presses more than one button, and having a lot of engagement. And I hope that some of you watching are also players, and I will talk to you all later. And until I make the next video, have a good rest of your day, and peace.